So I want to talk about the secret level Warhammer from the Amazon show. Sadly, I did a full 1 hour video using a program to be able to record my screen, but the app of Amazon prevent anything from showing on the screen. So the only thing you see is my face, the audio, and a black screen. So I'm kind of sad about that. So as a vengeance, I decided to speak to you guys for the next 30 minutes, explaining all the details and the points that I pointed out while I was doing that review of the secret level. So the first thing that it starts with is basically the sergeant, the Blade Guard sergeant, talking about how he chose Titus when he was a kid, and the fact that he has no fear kind of bothered him. And that shows more a problem with his mentor, with the Blade Guard sergeant, that it shows a problem with Titus himself, right? And it's the same thing that happened in Space Marine 1 when Titus survived his contact with Chaos, and after that everybody's sure that he's being corrupted, right? And that what sent him into the Death Watch, then survived, came back and sent on a suicide mission to die, because that was the point of that mission, for him to die. And the show starts, we got the Blade Guard sergeant looking at his mission, and it's a weird thing because we got the sergeant getting the mission and not Lieutenant Titus getting that information for the mission. So we see that Titus is maybe not being seen as being loyal, or he could be problematic elements within the Ultramarines. From there, we see them walking down the path, and they skip. I don't know why they decided just to do a 16 minutes show, but they could have just give us the suit up, the ritual of them suiting up as Blade Guard veterans. That'd be amazing. But they kind of skipped it, I guess, time constraint. I really hope they did that. They could have went for 25 minutes easily with this show. After that, they were walking down the path to get to the drop pod, and one of the first thing that hit me when I was looking at it is just before they step inside of the drop pod, all the Blade Guards don't have their shield. And that's the first thing that came to my mind, because I was going to do a review as if it's the board game, right? Well, the tabletop. So I was going to talk about the movement, the shooting, the charge phase, the melee phase, or the fight phase. And there was nothing, right? So I was kind of wondering, and I was like, well, in the lore, they never said that the equipment cannot be loaded within the drop pod. But at the same time, it's a weird thing to drop, and then you have to pick up your equipment and get out. So I was like, it's a weird tiny detail that I wondered. And at the same time, I made the comment that maybe Titus was just hugging that container with the Psyker inside of it. So anyways, from there they land on the planet, and the first glimpse we get is a few eggs broken open and a few papers, with one of them, I believe, with the symbol of Tinch. So I was like, oh, there's going to be a three-way battle. We're going to get Tyranids, we're going to get the Cultist or the Chaos Demon, and we'll get the Space Marine. And the more it progressed for the next minute, we see some kind of birds or bats coming out of a cavern. So I was like, Gargoyle from the Tyranids. Then after that, we start seeing the Cultists charging in, but I saw some bikes. And I was like, oh, are the Gene Stealers joining the Tyranids to attack them? The Gene Stealers are actually joining the Cultists to attack them. So I was kind of confused, because on the tabletop, we don't have Cultists on bikes. And now I'm wondering why Games Workshop is not doing Cultists on bikes. That'd be actually pretty amazing if you want to make some. But anyways, on this, I believe it's the Chaos Demon's turn. So the first thing we see is them charging. We see the cultist mob moving forward and the bikes catching up with them. And we got that charge phase. So the first one to charge in are the bikes. And I believe the Space Marine, the Blade Guards, went into a Overwatch and shot the bikes. And after that, we got the melee, where what you expect from cultist mob attacking Blade Guards, it didn't go too well for them. So even on the tabletop, that's pretty accurate. From there, it's the turn of the Space Marine, and they start moving. When they start moving, they get overwatched by the tank. I think it's a Luminous, not sure. It's not, the cannon looks like something from a Land Raider, but I'm not too sure if it's a Limit Rust. So I believe it's a Limit Rust. So from there they got attacked, but Titus drop his container, charge in, do a tank shot on an ATV, jump on top of the tank, strike it a few times, and drop a grenade. Usually on the tabletop, the grenade is used into the shooting phase. So we don't know. We don't have the data sheet for Titus yet. We just got the one from the board game, but maybe. So I was counting the wounds in my head. Okay, if Limited Rust got 12 wounds, let's say Titus, even if we see him doing like 2 strikes with his chainsword, let's just say that he has 4 attack or 6 attacks, maybe at 2 damage or 1 damage each. If we go with the chainsword, it's 4 attack at 1 damage each. So that's 4. So we're at 8, and he dropped a grenade, but usually the grenade is 6d6. So 6 mortal wounds will still be left with a few less. So I guess because the lieutenant is using the chainsword, we will say that he did 2 damage apiece with his chainsword. So yeah, I was thinking about that when he was charging in. So from there, the sergeant gave him back the container, and he seems really to disapprove what Titus just did. And that shows that lack of fear of Titus. He acts recklessly, and that's pretty much what we see from Space Marine 1 and Space Marine 2. He doesn't completely adhere to the Codex Astartes. He can actually deviate from it. And Gilliman said it, you don't need to follow it by the book. It's more a guideline on what to do, but you need to adapt. From there, they start getting closer to the relic, and what happens, it's basically all the shenanigans from Cinch starts to happen. Gravity reverse, temperature outside gets really, really high. That's why their seals are burning up. So everything's kind of messed up, and instead of falling completely down the cliff, they start walking down. Then they reach the temple where is the symbol of the Lord of Change. When they get there, they open the box for that Psyker. And the first thing that came to mind when I see the back of that Psyker with the cables is that fan animation Astartes that we had a few years back that got bought by Games Workshop and put on Warhammer Plus and changed the music and whatnot. It's a really, really replicate. They got either really inspired by it, or maybe they took the guy in. I don't know. But yeah, that was really reminiscent of that. And as soon as they start shooting at the representation or the effigy of the Lord of Change, they got attacked by a demon. I think, and I hope somebody's listening to this and got a bit more info about that, but I think that's a changeling from the model in the Chaos Demons. And just the fact he has those 4 arms and that staff, that's what comes to mind, that it's a changeling. And what changeling does, usually they use their abilities to battle shock models on the tabletop and then make them unable to target that specific model that just did that, the changeling himself. And so they play with shenanigans. And if you don't know about Cinch, it's basically knowledge, lies, truth. They're playing with people's mind. Even the world of Cinch is basically a maze, and it's open to everybody. So knowing that, we kind of know what that demon is doing to them. And that's where some people seems to be a bit confused. So the first Blade Guard gets killed by his own self. Okay, all of them are killing themselves. It's not the demon that's killing them. So what he does to the first Space Marine is making him believe something is off or wrong within him. So as a good Space Marine, he wants to eliminate the threat. He rips open his body, pulls out his own soul, and crushes it. That's how the first Blade Guard dies. The second one, which is the Sergeant and the mentor of Titus, the first thing he thinks about when he gets into that world is that fear of Titus not having fear and the consequence of that. And by doing that, he sees that young boy without fear growing up to become a Space Marine and being corrupted to the Chaos Space Marine, because he knows and he's aware of what happened in Space Marine 1 when Titus got in contact with the chaos. So everybody thinks there's some kind of corruption, even if he survived the Death Watch. After all of that, we see the mission be given to the sergeant and not Titus from the beginning. We see there's a lack of of trust into Titus and his allegiance or loyalty. From there, that form of Titus strikes him with his chainsword. It's not Titus that does that, it's not the demon. It's basically the sergeant believing that's what's going to happen. And because of that, it shows that the problem with the sergeant is not that he chose Titus and he has doubt about his lack of fear, is the fact that he himself has a fear of Titus. And that's why he believed Titus would strike him, and that's why he's being struck and he's injured. When it comes to Titus, when the demon tried to manipulate him, Titus has no fear. So the only thing Titus is focused on at 100%, and the first thing that comes to mind when he's inside that mind world, manipulation by the chaos demon, it's basically the chaos demon himself, the changeling himself. So because of that, Titus didn't really trick him, but the chaos demon didn't expect to be the manifestation that came out of Titus' mind, and that's how Titus was able to strike him down. He's so aggressive and so focused that he could attack the demon within that imaginary world. And that's how he was able to destroy the staff. And by destroying the staff, times come back to normal, bullets hits the Lord of Change's relic, and he kills the demon. Great scene, beautiful. The only thing is when he lands, because he made a big leap, like at 45 degrees to reach him, like a few feet further, he lands and we see the statue being destroyed. We don't see any corpse of the Space Marine. We don't see the corpse of the Psyker, which I find kind of weird. But yeah, it's cinematic, right? I'm really nitpicking. So not only that, but we're missing one of the Blade Guard. And I'm not sure what happened to him. I'm not sure if when the demons strike the Psyker, did it went through the other Blade Guard? Because we're missing a Blade Guard, right? We got the Sergeant and one Blade Guard that died. We got Titus that got challenged and he beat him. But I'm not sure where the other guy is. So anyways, after that, everybody's done. They're back on, not on the surface, but outside of the temple before the ordnance land. And at that point, I feel it's kind of weird because the sergeant says, our duty is done. And the first thing that came to my mind is we got that sentence that keep repeating itself. Only in death does duty end. So I'm like, that sergeant really needs to retire. He's done, right? He doesn't believe anymore and he's not functional. And when he sees Titus without fear, putting back his helmet and getting ready, I believe he gets back that vibe of only in death does duty end, and that Titus is actually one of the best Space Marine against corruption because of that lack of fear. But we have to understand that what makes Titus so strong is going to be his weakness somewhere, because he is reckless. At one point, when he ditched the container, we know he did something reckless. The whole mission was based on that Psyker reaching that relic of the Lord of Change. That was extremely dangerous. And that's because he lacks fear. So that could be something that will be used maybe in Space Marine 3 or another TV show that they could use against him or make him do something reckless, abandon the mission, to do something more important in his mind, or simply striking his own teammate by making him believe they're the enemies. So yeah, there was a few things like that I didn't mind. One of the biggest criticism I would give to the show is basically the music was way too loud. That first fight scene where the cultist mob attacks them, I kind of hated the fact we don't really hear what's happening. And that's one thing that I love about Space Marine or the Warhammer universe. It's the weight of things and how bloody and intense it is, the impact and the strength of it. But on the other side, what I really like is when they go down and they strike the Xengor demons that were having glowy blue blood. We got that scene where they move forward, they attack the Xengor, beat them, and they do like 3-4 more steps, and they got the surprise attack again, really, really fast. And I don't like that, because what it does, how can you justify this intensity of mission if a few minutes before that they rolled their full 4+ invulnerability for being blade guard with their shields against a tank and not taking any damage? So how does small demons can be problematic? Well, the constant attack and surprise attack. So at least you know they're constantly into that situation where any second something can happen. I wish they would have done more, but again, the 16 minutes is so short. They could have played so much with that idea of constant threat, maybe cultists attacking with snipers from far away, another surprise attack, stuff like that. That would have been great, but we got what we got. And I still like it. Okay, don't take me wrong. I'm not saying it was a bad show. It was actually really great, and I'm glad, because it's better than what is on Warhammer Plus. And at least if that's the level we get from the start for what's coming on Amazon, it's positive. It's more positive than negative, but there's a few things I would like them maybe to work on. Maybe those weird continuity errors where we're not sure where the shields are before getting on the drop pods. And I know the Cinch got that bluish aqua color. We see it in the blood of the demons, but we saw it in the headlights of the cultists when they're attacking, and I'm like, that's weird. So are there dirt bikes and ATVs powered by the power of the warp? So is that why the lights shine that specific color, or did they change the bulb? So yeah, I was thinking of stuff like that. But all in all, it was great action scene. They really tried to nail it, but I think for a character as popular as Titus is after Space Marine 2, they should have made maybe a longer episode. But it's a start. It's a good start. It's a good beginning. I really hope to see more of that. So yeah, that was my little tidbits. I saw a lot of people trying to come with the explanation for the ending, and they seems not as specific as I would wish them to be. They're just like, oh, he beat the demon. I'm like, yeah, well, explain why. So anyways, on this, I hope you guys enjoy. I'm really sad that I couldn't do an actual review step-by-step video. I really did a 55 minutes video that will go to the trash. So that was just out of my mind right now. So it's not as specific. So I just wanted to put it out there before I forget what I just did. So on this, I hope you guys enjoy. I'll try to find a way maybe to do the reviews for the Warhammer Plus and find another application to record my screen, because Amazon is being a dick with copyrights and blocking off screens when you try to record them. So yeah, fair use my ass. So anyways, on this, I hope you guys enjoy. It's not much. I know not a lot of you will watch this completely, so I hope you guys enjoy this. All right, see you around.